Assalamualaikum and hello to Dr. Zamri bin Miskam. Today we will be presenting about the topic dry pot or inland container depot. This topic will be presented by me, Nur Arika binti Muhammad Faiz, and my two other members, Ahmad Darwish bin Mat Saad and Muhammad Harith Akmal bin Zainuddin. I will be explaining on the introduction. Dry pot, also known as inland intermodal, which is directly by road or rail to a seaport, operating as a center of the transshipment of sea cargo to inland destinations. Dry pot can supply goods, storage and distribution facilities, road or rail freight, repair and customs clearance service. Dry pot would also ease the movement of goods between ships and major land transportation system. It also may increase the flow of import and export. Next, the shipment container allows several functions historically performed at seaport to be moved elsewhere. This is the layout of inland container depot. First is the Segamat Inland Port and second is the Jurong Port of Singapore. Now I will be explaining on the roles and functions of inland container depot. First is custom clearance. Custom clearance is a process of receiving goods from the custom authority to allow the flow of goods within the country, which is import, and outside the country, export. Custom clearance defined as a process issued by the custom authority to the shipper confirming that all duties have been paid and that the product of the shipper have been cleared for sale. Also, it is important to choose a good freight forwarder to avoid any problems occurred. Next is container stuffing and destuffing. Container stuffing is the term of the method of loading materials into a container or other form of transportation ready for shipment. Destuffing is unloading from containers. Container destuffing is always be misunderstood for a clear cut, but actually it takes a lot of pre-planning and proper organization. Relabel of goods is important because it would apply to an easier travel through the supply chain. Employees should be properly qualified to handle the containers. And it is important to search for losses during the delivery process so that the blame will not be land on the warehouse. Now I will be explaining on the challenges faced during the COVID-19. First, the imbalance of the amount of container of goods. Second is, according to FIEPA Forwarder Association and TP Club Insurer, the COVID-19 has wiped out the market demand and prevented manufacturing all parts of the world. Freight was slowly being set up in factories, ports, and inland depots during the lockdown. Delay in transit is a solution that shippers to store import containers at transshipment hub as freight owners change the supply chain in response to the COVID-19. Also, IAPH reveals that a mix of ports around the world has increased 35%.
So thank you my previous teammate about explaining about little bit about dry pot. So today we'll explain about first process of dry pot. So, dry port is considered for development at a location with various transport links such as highways, railways, and inland waterways. Dry port support the improvement of transport service in the container freight system by promoting intermodal transportation. So the first process is the dry port in Malaysia will serve as warehouse to assist the manufacturer and at the same time contributing to the container enhancement in the seaport. So the main function of dry port are as container storage areas and customs clearance center assisting seaport to ease the import and export procedure. So second is perform as information processing terminals for custom clearance, immigration center and for police departments to ease the domestic international container distribution. So the consistent of container supply and clearance too will be allocate more spaces to port operators such as North Port to provide more spaces and capacity to vehicle transit. So lastly is perform as value added service center. So most of stakeholders anticipate various value added service from dry port such as sorting, mixing, blending, packaging, repackaging, labeling and relabeling. So they believe that the variation in value added service will increase the demand for dry port among the clients. So next is advantages of dry port. So the first advantages is reduction in environmental damage. So dry port make possible the diversion of cargo movement between trade sources and seaport from road to more environmentally sustainable mode of transport. Next is increase in public safety. So dry port will reduce accident frequency as well as accident consequences. Safety and health policy concern the calculation and assessment of the risk, and the application of preventive measure is priority is given to eliminating the risk at the source. So lastly is reduction of congestion in dry port. Dry port can help to ease the congestion issue at seaport. So the transport infrastructure is important for dry port so they can assist seaport to reducing congestion. To overcome such congestion, I will give example the Swedish Transport Administration. They established a regional distribution center for segregating the volume of container to various distribution centers through a system of varying transportation accesses. So next is I will explain about these advantages of dry port. So first point is rail system inefficiency. So limited railway tracks and low capacity of train deck makes the container movement from PVCT to Penang much slower. Limited service provided by PVCT may affect the attractiveness of this dry port and affect the container transport and change during container distributing to and from the seaport. Next is lack of rail connectivity provided by Malaysian Railway. Providing spaces for empty containers will minimize empty container movement across the hinterland and assist shippers to distribute their product directly to dry ports with enhanced economic links in supply chains and reduce inland transit time. This particular dry port faces high competition from container seaport. Next is the location of dry port. Mostly, dry port is located away from manufacturing area and only contribute 20% of container to Johor Port and Port Klang. So, okay, lastly is dry port versus seaport. So, unlikely, they have a great competition between them. In reality, competition exists between seaport and dry port, limiting the performance of dry port. So the first is seaport and dry port are not keen to cooperate but rather to compete. So this competitive relationship between seaport and dry port has contributed the complication during container transfer from seaport to dry port. The competition between seaport and dry port has limited the performance of this dry port in their seaport. So, to overcome this situation, dry port have to diversity activities or services and provide more value-added services to manufacturers in order to reduce competition from seaport. So next is dry port and seaport are part of container seaport system. So the competition between them will be improved their performance more as a single entity rather than collectively. In some regions such as the USA and India, seaport operators are the investor in dry port. Hence, if seaport compete with their own subsidiary terminal rather than cooperate with them, they may provide less benefit to seaport, dry port, and in fact the whole freight system. And lastly is strategy on how dry port can develop a cooperative relationship with seaport. So some of standpoint are that the container seaport are like to be more competitive if they possess excellent hinterland access, offer superior connectivity to the market, receive consistent support from key stakeholders in seaport area, involve the private sector in the terminal operation, provide sufficient space for future development and capacity extension, be involved in providing logistic services to facilitate freight. The focus of seaport competitors have evolved over time. So, the implementation of this new strategy has improved the effectiveness of container transportation to and from the seaport, reducing the competition from other seaport and enhancing seaport competitiveness. Thank you, that's all from me. Assalamualaikum.
I'm going to start to explain about services provided for dry port. The idea of dry port is based on a seaport directly linked by rail with intermodal inland terminal where containers can be handled in the same manner as if they were in a seaport. If the importer or exporter is far from seaport, planning and proper handling of the product would be annoyance. So, the government in some country allow container freight station under custom control to deal with export and import formalities. Dry ports provide various services for imports and export. It handles all type of cargo, containerized, non-containerized, breakbulk and bulk cargoes. Other than handling containers, dry port also provide services like custom control and clearance, container freight station with stuffing and unstuffing services, cargo tracking service, and many more. Dry port designed to accommodate primarily break bulk loads in small consignment, full container loads, and less than container load chosen for custom inspection. The services provided for dry port is freight forwarding, inventory control, container packing and unpacking, customer service, inland transportation, shipping lane, storage, consolidation, warehousing, and repair facilities. Instead of handling export and import shipment, dry port also handling the custom clearance. We need to use the transportation to transport shipment from one place to another. For example, exporter need to use a trailer to transport their container to the dry port for further process. Usually, the inland transportation used is by road and rail. Importer and exporter will bring the container using trailer to ship it. Some of the exporter or importer will use the cargo train to transport their containers to go to dry port as an alternative way. Other than that, one of the most important service provided for dry port is loading and unloading containers. Loading consists of transferring freight from resting point to truck from the terminal station, raising the cargo onto the truck and storing the cargo in the truck. One of uh, they will need vehicle to bring the container around the station. Some of them is like forklift truck, reach stackers, yard trucks, or straddle carrier can be used for transporting a container at a main terminal. Usually, forklift truck will pick up container from the ground to straddle carriers. There are many ways of loading and unloading the containers. Many boundary about recommended uh, 1, 2, 3. About recommendation for future improvement, I will say that many boundaries requirements such as space for tier operator for cargo handling as well as space required by the vessel for bypassing and turning and so on need to be taken into account by a port planner. Think of environmental aspects such as striving for a calm port basin. Try to eliminate wave and have the quay lie in such a way that the wind always drive the moored vessel into the fender, if necessary. Long-term measurement and numerical modeling also influence berthing condition. It can be used to make prediction for wind condition and all kind of wave and current in a port. Long-term wave, for example, can reduce the operability of terminal. A port planner will know, together with extreme value assessment, how frequently each situation is likely to occur. The response is like incredibly fast tool that enable the testing of an entire matrix in a batch, allowing extraordinary detailed insight into the movement of the vessel that must be anticipated in the design of port. This method helps to forecast port downtime and has the potential to evaluate a range of significant design. Thus, the efficiency of optimizing a port by choosing the design that offer lowest downtime. The capacity for dry ports to support seaport in the handling of mega vessel and the consequences for competitiveness of seaport. In addition, due to particular intensity of this method technique has been applied. It addresses, for instance, wider research question. It is capable of combining qualitative and quantitative methods to resolve limitations and use the strength of each approach and its enhanced insight into comprehension of the knowledge that may be overlooked by using a single approach to the process.